Hey, and welcome everyone. I'm Michelle French.
And I'm Kent French, and we make up the Frenchitivity family along with our now 9-year-old daughter. We decided to step away from our busy lives and travel the world for a year. And on the Frenchitivity Podcast, we've been talking to like-minded people and individuals that have done something a little bit crazy, a little bit outside the box to find more fulfillment in their lives. But we are going to pivot for a moment, Michelle, and start to dive into our trip country by country.
Yeah, we've had a lot of questions about where we went and how we navigated this year-long travel. And so we're going to start sharing with you country by country, where we went, what we experienced, how we booked our travel, why we went to certain destinations, and what we found there once we arrived.
All right. Well, this podcast focuses on the country of Portugal, the first European country we paid a visit to, all the people, places, and things that we did and how we did them. So we hope you enjoy this podcast. And of course, we hope this conversation inspires you.
Frenchitivity, Frenchitivity, all over the world.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Frenchitivity Podcast. Kent and Michelle French back with you, and we are in our Frenchitivity Podcast studio, as you can tell. If you're watching on YouTube, we got the logo hanging up. We're working on the lighting. We're working on all the things.
Trying something new. That's how we roll.
This is how we roll. So what we decided to do is the last podcast that we had, it was entitled Reflection, which was certainly encompassed really the entire, our entire journey that we did, 9 countries in 10 months. And we have decided that we like to kind of break it down a little bit. And so this is the, call it, I don't know, the travel series. Maybe I'm just coming up with that now, but we're going to go country by country. And we'd love to kick things off with our first stop, which was Portugal.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. We want to take everybody through our journey and provide some insight about why we chose the locations that we chose. Also, what hit us there in unique ways, and really just share some of the experiences, activities. So a little bit of a travel guide, but also a little bit of a inspiration all at the same time.
A little disclaimer at the beginning of this podcast as well. We are going to certainly give you a lot of information and go through all the stops and all the fun things that we did and how they affected us and our family. And of course, a little Worldschooling at the end, and kind of how we were able to accomplish that. But also, it's just going to be a lot of information. So Michelle, who really planned this as we went, is going to put together a PDF downloadable file for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So listen and enjoy, and then know that I've got you. And if you're anything like me, I mean, maybe you're an auditory learner and you'll just catch all this, but I have got you. We will create something that will have the itinerary, links to times that we booked things, kind of a recap of our recommendations and really what our whole journey was. So listen, enjoy, soak this in, and go to Frenchitivity.com/Portugal to download your free guide.
So we're kind of fired up as well on this, because as we are now back in our re-entry phase and trying to take all of our experiences, it's changed us as a family, it's changed us as individuals, but it's kind of neat to be able to go back and relive some of this stuff that we're able to do.
This is completely selfish.
It's just, it's selfish and it's therapeutic all at the same time.
And actually it is a bit, but also our entire goal is to provide value, is to inspire others, to use our experience to question some of the paradigms. And if you resonate with any of that, join us, give us feedback. We want to hear from you. This is not about us. This is about us retelling our journey.
Right.
This is about us reflecting, giving tips, doing everything we can. But at the end of the day, this is not about us.
I will say this before we go, though. It took me half an hour to get the picture straight behind us. So if it is crooked in your mind, if you're watching on YouTube, I tried. I really did the best I could.
Don't let it distract you. I think it's okay.
All right, let's roll in here. Why Portugal? And from a location standpoint, we started in New York. I'd really be upset if we didn't say that we went from California to New York. And she said, if I'm going to go on this trip with you guys, we are going to see the Statue of Liberty. And we did. And that will be certainly a separate conversation for another time. But we went from New York then to Portugal. it was there, right? We're starting in Europe and then traveling east, and it was just a really good landing spot for us. And Michelle, a lot of people we had talked to were like, you got to go there. I mean, this is somewhere you have to go. It's the climate. A lot of things are similar to Southern California, and we're like, kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, as it turned out, it was an incredibly popular destination at that time. But I agree with you that really the entry point was that, like, if we travel from California to New York and we go to Europe, and that's really the first entry point. And when we had a map hanging on our wall for months before our journey, Portugal just it stood out to us. It more spoke to us than us
Yeah.
choosing it. I felt like sometimes people would ask why Portugal, and I'm like, I don't know. It
Yeah.
just felt right.
It did feel right.
Portugal it was.
Portugal it was. And so we got to Portugal, or let's just put it in, so we planned out where we were going to stay and really kind of had some sort of a game plan for Portugal. And then moving forward from there, we kind of booked as we went.
Yeah, I think something that is important for people that might be new to us, or as you kind of hear us throughout, is that we had this thought that we would plan about 3 months ahead, and it would be a rolling itinerary. And as we were in a place, we would look a couple months out, and we would sort of always know a couple months out. But it ended up being a little more real time than that.
Right.
But Portugal was more thought out, probably because it was our first destination and we were excited, and we were planning it more from the States, from our home base before we left. So we weren't traveling while we were planning it.
Yep. But then once we got there, we
were.
So so going to Portugal, it's like, so where are you going to stay? Where are we going to stay?
Where does everybody go?
Right. And I think initially it's like, oh, we're staying in Lisbon. Like that's going to be the spot we're going to stay. And then the more that Michelle kind of put the research in, it was, we probably, and part of let me back up for a minute. Part of our goal with this journey was to kind of immerse ourselves in the culture, in the places that we were going to, and kind of and we're going to live. We're not just visiting and sightseeing. We're actually going to live in one spot for about a month. That was kind of the goal.
Yeah.
And so Michelle found a suburb outside of Lisbon called Odivalas and said, I think this is our spot. And so we were able to find a great Airbnb, a couple that was like, you want to book it for a month? Sure, we can do that. And it was a really good jumping off point for the rest of Portugal.
Absolutely. Yes, because once I started researching, Lisbon is broken into many districts, which we'll talk about. And so just staying in Lisbon is bigger than it sounds. So finding an area that was more of a neighborhood, more of a suburb where we could travel into Lisbon was better for our family at the time, so that we could have an apartment, we could have more space. We knew we could make meals, we knew we could walk places. So and staying in Lisbon, I think, is fantastic. But then you've got older buildings, or maybe you're in a hotel that's more high-rise. And so we, in this first stop, really needed to be in a place that we could make home.
I didn't know what the heck we were doing. Oh, we had no idea what we are getting ourselves into. I don't think we still know what we got ourselves into. But yeah. And so you mentioned space. There was green space. Doing the research, there were walkability was huge, as you mentioned, with restaurants, mini markets. The mini mix turned out to be one of our favorite spots, where we were able to buy groceries, cook meals at home. Bus stops were close by. Initially, that was the thought. Bus stops were close by. So it kind of checked all these boxes that we were hoping to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And upon arrival, it still checked all those boxes, like a really cool apartment. It's actually still one of Everly's favorites, which is very cool, because we could make it home for a full month. We stayed for an entire month. And it was also really neat because not too far was like a running path. There was like a running track.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were able to take walks, go for runs on the running track, green space behind, like you mentioned. And we have an infamous spot there called the Hills.
The Hills.
Everly would have us go run the hills. So we were able to work out.
Right. We quote unquote work out. So so the pro was location. Con might have been a little bit of location. Why? Because now you're in a suburb, and now you have to effort to do to get out and do something. And so we are workers, and we put together, we built Frenchitivity, and we were editing and podcasting and all kinds of things. And you can really get caught up like we do in our normal lives at one inside,
Yeah.
and everybody can get comfortable, watching something or doing something. And so we really then needed to make an effort to leave.
Yes.
So we quickly found out the buses weren't going to work for us. The scheduling was just really off and whatever it is. So we ended up Ubering to the subway, Ubering to the train
metro,
station.
The Pontina became our Pontina station became our go-to favorite station. And the day we figured out how to get to that train station and how to work the metro was like,
it opened up. The whole world opened up to us.
Because we learned there were certain kinds of passes, which I'll put in the PDF, but there were passes that were going to work for us. There was routing that we understood. We understood now how to get into the different neighborhoods and districts of Lisbon.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we're like, okay, we can do this. We can have our point, and we know how to travel. And like you were just saying, that meant it was a tremendous amount of effort each time. It wasn't like you just walk out your steps and go somewhere. So we really needed to plan out our days because we'd be away from home all day if we wanted to go explore.
And, I alluded to, we were able to shop and make dinners at home. Budget friendly is something that was really important to us, not knowing, the very first stop on this year-long journey, this around the world, is like, you got to kind of watch the budget a little bit. So we want to be able to cook. A kitchen was important to us, and having it be able to go and do our meals. And so all that was important. We spent Halloween at this apartment. We made pumpkins out of bell peppers. We brought costumes with us, and we'll put some of those up as well for you to see. But yeah, it was a great spot. We had a couple people come to our door, and we got to know some of the people around. So yeah, it was a neat experience.
Yeah, we read about the traditions of Halloween, and Halloween in Portugal is different. Our Americanized Halloween, but in Portugal, the tradition is that you go to someone's door and bring them something.
Mm-hmm.
And so we talked about that. Should we do that? I'm like, I don't know. Neighbors might think we're a little weird. We can't speak much Portuguese, so we were hopeful that we maybe would get a trick or treater. We did. We got a couple at the late part of the night, but we still celebrated fully. And we get asked that a lot, like on this journey, how did we celebrate the holidays? And so as we take you through our itinerary, there are many holidays that we covered all over the world. And so we'll talk about that, like how we really made those special and still celebrated. But Halloween was definitely one that is very memorable. We looked for pumpkin patches. That's not a thing in Portugal. There were a couple like hay rides really far out that were far away. So we just made it our own.
Do you remember the costumes?
Oh, definitely.
What was I? I was a skeleton.
You were a skeleton. I was a cat. Oh, I said definitely. And then
See?
I'm like, what was I? What? Wasn't I a cat?
Ev was a cat.
Was I also a cat?
I don't know. Back to the pictures again.
I said definitely. I'm like, I don't know. We were cats.
Before we move on from Odawalis, and again, we wanted to spend a little time here because it was our kind of home base while we were in Portugal. Was Michelle just kind of alluded to it? Like we tried to learn some of the language and some of the easy communicative sentences, phrases, whatever it may be. But we certainly got a little bit of a feeling, and being in a suburb especially, was people are like, "Are you moving here?" Like we're like, "No, why?"
Yeah.
And so then we started to get a sense of the people from the U.S. are moving. A lot of people are finding permanent residency in Portugal. And so there is a little bit of, I don't call it animosity, of people coming from the U.S. moving to Portugal, finding out later that because so many people are buying property, the property value is going up and just some things that aren't, along the lines of what the people from the Portugal were very happy with. So once we got over that, because now we're in the suburb, they're seeing us every day. It took a little while for the warm fuzzies to arrive.
Absolutely. And this has layers because this is actually something kind of common on our journey throughout, of certain areas being curious about Americans if they're going to come in and buy property, like you said. But what we also found is if we just show up as curious, kind humans, then we also encounter other curious, kind humans. But at first, they were very unsure about us and really wanted to understand why we were there, especially because we were staying longer. But that was part of the point, that we wanted to stay in each place to immerse ourselves. So it was a little bit of a give and take to balance that out. But yes, once people realized we were just there for a short time, they were quite friendly.
So one thing about Lisbon is it's divided into many districts. As you know, as people listening, if you've been there, you already know, but that's something we had to learn. And there is a historical background to the city of Lisbon that you wanted to bring forth, because this was a kind of a common theme, especially later on. We'll tell you a cool tile experience later, but it kind of brought it all together.
Yeah.
But I know that you wanted to kind of touch on
Yeah,
that.
so there was an earthquake in 1755, and it was devastating at the time, but it now is extremely interesting. The culture of that is woven throughout, and it is part of why Lisbon, or excuse me, well, yes, Lisbon
Mhm.
is, and the districts are built the way they are. So it's some of the first grid systems in all of Europe, but it's all due to the earthquake and having to rebuild. So you see monuments and tributes to that everywhere. The tiles are significant, which we'll talk about in a minute, like Kent said, but it makes it, once you understand, really beautifully easy to navigate, but when you're trying to absorb it at first, it's very confusing and complicated. There are 10 districts, and understanding how the metro worked to get to each of those. But we focused on a few of them, and really, found them to be very charming. So the first day we took the metro into, and we went to
Baisha.
Baisha.
Well, the cool thing too about this is, so we took the metro, which is the subway, as I
Yeah.
guess we would call it.
Yeah.
But the stairway to go up was like, I don't know, it was crazy how many steps. I didn't realize how far down we were. So as we're going up, and Everly is just, all I can
Jetting up
see
the
is her
stairs.
just running up the stairs. So we have this cool shot of her going up the stairs. That's trying to keep an eye on her. And then we come outside from this kind of darkness. It was a gorgeous day. It couldn't have been any better. It had a buzz and people everywhere. And of course, again, those who've been there, the outdoor cafes and the restaurants and the fountains and
Town Square, the
Town
cobblestone
Square,
streets. It's
the
like
color and
everything.
the colorful buildings, and just it was like everything that you see on a postcard was happening, in real time before our eyes. And then within 5 minutes of us being there, all of a sudden we hear something, and it's this a youth group, marching band,
Yeah.
rolling through town, end up in one of the squares, this big crescendo at the end. It was like, what's going on? It was so cool. And I think it was the first time, a couple days after we had landed and kind of got our bearings about us. It was a kind of, we like, this is what we're okay. Now we're getting to see the culture, the city, the history. This is really, really cool.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Now we were out of more the suburb,
Yeah.
into Lisbon, into this beautiful district, and able to see where the history was about to unfold for us.
And you made a good point too, as we're navigating through Baisha and some of the other districts that we'll touch on. You mentioned it was such a good thing to stay in Odawalis. We'll probably allude to this again, but I remember people with suitcases. It was packed, and they're going and they're trying to find their Airbnb, their apartment, whatever it may be, and they're kind of navigating down these busy, narrow alleyways, and there's people everywhere.
Yeah.
And as
You've all seen this.
and we're like going, I'm so glad I'm not rolling a rollerboard right now over cobblestone. And with a then 7-year-old,
Yes.
it's like the nightlife doesn't shut down for kids. So it was
part of the reason, again, to stay in
Right.
the suburb, because we felt that the energy of the city would be, as it should be, amazing and a buzz and fun. And we needed to be able to have a little bit of a more stable family life in those first weeks and months of our trip. So, but yeah, very fun. So we got to walking, and I will say, finding walking guides, and a lot of people take a walking tour when they first get to a city.
Mhm.
Helps them kind of familiarize themselves. But we did find some walking guides online that were awesome to follow, because they had some, called out some tourist kind of spots. But we just decided we love walking. And the more we would walk, the more it would unfold for us and we could discover. And so we would happen upon these very popular spots, but sometimes sort of on accident. Like we were headed to something, and then we would stop by a beautiful lookout or another spot. So
Right.
the walking guides were really helpful to help us just navigate and walk and explore. I think we first headed to
yeah.
Rocio Plaza.
Yes.
I do apologize for any native Portuguese speakers or anyone.
We're doing our best. Google's helped us out as much as it possibly could. So yes,
I always try my best, but I'm just not that good at the accents. But anyway, we went to the plaza and there's beautiful water features and restaurants all around. And we ended up having lunch at a cafe. Befriended our waiter, tried to do a podcast, or I tried to do like a little feature with him. We were still getting our bearings about how we were going to storytell on the journey. But he ended up quizzing us on where he was from. He was actually from a small island off the coast of Africa.
Mhm.
And just just the people, just everything, the conversations. It was just lovely.
It was great. And that is a big point that we'll probably chat throughout the course of this series, was the trying to understand Frenchitivity, what we were trying to build, the not only taking people with us around the world, but we are storytellers at heart. I have a broadcasting background, Michelle, an events background. We've been around telling stories about people, and so we wanted to interview people. And it's like, how are we going to do this? So we are fresh into a new country. We don't know the language, and I want to interview you, and I want to put you on our Instagram. Like, what in the world are we thinking? So initially, we had business cards, like, hey, DM us. We'd love to talk to you. Whatever it is, like that wasn't working, and we'll progress what we finally figured out to do.
Yeah.
So later, but I do, and again, the pronunciation here, Elevator de Santa Justa. Let's not forget about that,
Yes.
right?
So there's a very famous elevator, and it was built because the hills are so hard to navigate and the cobblestone. And so it was built to be able to take people from Baja up to the Alfama district. And that was how it was traditionally used. But now it's a beautiful sightseeing, almost a museum of sorts, but you can still take the elevator. So we navigated our way to that and had that experience of riding the elevator, riding the lift, and the views at the top were amazing.
And that's a great segue into the Alfama district, which was amazing. And it really is one of those, as was Lisbon as a whole, it seemed like there was art stands, people painting, drawing, then there was music around every corner, and people, again, the outdoor cafes, listening, enjoying. It was part of the whole vibe of what Lisbon was giving to us.
Yes.
Like, this is what you're supposed to experience here.
And the Ruagas stuff for sure, but not
Mhm.
just there. It was sort of around every corner and nook and cranny. It was just vibrant.
So Alfama is the oldest district in Lisbon, and again, the cobblestone streets and the Moorish architecture kind of had a little bit of everything. But one of also the main attractions, if you will, is St. George's Castle.
Yes. And as a side note for anyone with kids and traveling with kids, this was a separate day. We did not do Baja and Alfama on the same day. So
no.
Understand that we are,
as Michelle mentioned earlier, we walked everywhere we went. We had to have a recovery period.
Yeah.
That's
our
why
days were long.
That's why Otavalos was a good thing. We recovered in Otavalos and went back out again.
It's a different day.
Yes. So we went to the St. George's Castle. These castles just are unreal. It just oozes history. It's pretty amazing what it gives off. It just gives off this, I don't know, mystery, intrigue. What was it like back then? It's
Well, so part of this journey for us too is, of course, certain aspects of America, and a certain culturalized identity of America now, current America, is a pretty young country in some ways. And so us being able to really understand the history, the sacrifice, the things that were happening in Europe throughout time, and how these castles were built, why they were built, where they were built to defend waterways and to have lookouts and to actually walk on these castle walls that have been there since the 1700s was, it was really just awe-inspiring. You felt so, and I say this a lot when I talk about our travels, but you felt so wondrous and big to be part of it, and so small at the same time.
8th century BC is what it dates back to. Not that I know what that feels like, but it felt like it, like Michelle said. And everything is up high, of course, because you're defending the valley, the waterways, everything below, and so the views were spectacular. So this in itself was a wonderful thing for Everly too, because as we're going to weave in the whole family friendly thing, of course, and it's we're walking the streets, and of course Michelle and I would love to have a stop and have a glass of wine and listen to some music, but that isn't necessarily a family friendly thing for a then 7-year-old. So these castles and these things are really cool. And as we weave into the world schooling thing, it's going to be exciting to see how this stuff unpacks itself. How later in history that she's like, oh, St. George's Castle, I was there, and those kind of things. So those are the events that we certainly hope unfold themselves down the road. But for this particular moment, it was awesome. You're climbing up stairs and narrow walkways, and there's lookout points. But the St. George's Castle, somehow, some way, we happened upon a peacock parade.
Well, a peacock feeding, at least. Yes.
But it was a
peacocks.
parade of peacocks that literally walked, all of a sudden, they were marching up this stairway and into this open area, and it was a feeding. And it was, we have this video, Everly and Michelle, as I'm following them, we're like, oh, hold on, there's another one. There's another one. Let them go. And they were like walking in front of you guys, walking up the steps.
Yes.
And there was a point where I have this picture. It looks like there's a peacock standing on Ev's head. And then we go around, and there are, I guess there's 40 or 50 resident peacocks at this particular castle. And it was a peacock feeding. And that's what happens all the time.
As you do in St. George's Castle. The other thing I will say, like we've referenced a lot, like climate, I mean, many times museums and kind of formal structures, we understand how to navigate that, but the castle is so incredible because it's still just open, and you are able to walk on the walls. And again, we're used to a little bit more of like a safety culture. And it was like, there's no railings, there's no walkways, there's no egress this way and come out the other way. It's just like walk on the walls and get lost. And Everly would run fast ahead of us, and she'd end up on this like turret, and you're like, oh my goodness, she's so high up there. Let's catch up to her. And at the same time, I don't love heights. I don't know if I want to be up here. So
no babies, no strollers, really young kids, not a good spot for, I mean, certainly with a lot of supervision, but I think Ev was the perfect age where we still felt comfortable, although we still were a little leery, because even when we're walking, we're like, wait a second, if I just leaned over, I'm going. It's a long way down. So we have, again, through this process, St. George's Castle was the first that we were able to visit. But in the great research Michelle did, we're like, you know what? Alfama's a cool place. We need to come back and do this. And so we came back another night because there was a restaurant she found called Sem. It is a zero waste restaurant. And I won't say this right, but it's Laura Espirito Santo and George McLeod were the two owners of it. Laura's Brazilian, George is a Kiwi. I say we're the owners. We just found out it closed in April of 2026.
Yeah, it was a Michelin star restaurant, and we wanted to go have a really cool tasting experience, especially with a zero waste initiative establishment. And we had such an incredible experience. So we can't wait to see what that team is up to next. Yes, like you said, unfortunately it is closed now, but we had such an amazing time there. And it was really fun to just go in and have a really nice dinner as a family. And again, walk around Alfama with the evening vibes.
And, one thing that I saw, but I didn't realize the significance, Michelle just recently threw this at me, was the yellow tram 28.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It was the first time we saw that.
It was the first time we saw that. And we're walking, and so we didn't jump on trams. We just walked everywhere.
The reason there's a tram is because everything is hilly. So this is
and the tram was crowded. So probably a good idea we didn't go on it. But the trams were awesome. It's like a little cable car going up and down these cobblestone streets. Was fantastic.
It's iconic. Like you see it in all the pictures, and then we see it and we're like, that is so cool. And it is too crowded. We're not going to get on that.
Another district that we paid a visit to again on another day was the Alcantara district, which was the home of the LX factory. And we bring the LX factory up, which is
cool.
It is so cool. It's a repurposed 19th century industrial complex with over 50 shops, restaurants, studios. They have live music. We had a huge bookstore, which was like 3 stories tall. There was a puppet show that we did a story on.
I also mention that when we walk into it, and it's vibey and trendy and cool, and like you said, there's music of it. But when you walk in, there's also like beverage stations. Like you can straight away get a spritz or get a coffee or get a whatever, and it's just like,
I forgot what you grabbed. It was like a Bloody Mary or a michelada or something.
I think it was a sangria.
Or that.
It was a sangria.
Yeah.
And it was amazing sangria. But just this really lively environment with vendors selling goods and music and like Kent said, the bookstore, which had I don't even know if puppet show's the right word.
Old fashioned, you look through this little tiny hole and it opens up.
Like Mr. Rogers style.
Mr. Rogers style. That's a good comp.
That, yeah.
And this gentleman was in the back working several different characters doing the puppets, and there was music. It was like a mini movie that Everly watched in through the viewfinder. Yeah, it was anything like I've ever seen before. It was the simplest thing that what brought so much joy.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at something it was like made from paper mache, and it was beautiful.
It was beautiful.
So that was our experience at the Alex Factory.
And there was shops, like more formal shops indoors, but there were outdoor vendors as well. There were restaurants. There was a hostel. There was a hostel. Then the top of the hostel had a restaurant and a rooftop bar.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know. It was a really fun time. And a friend had recommended Alex Factory to us, and we are so glad we went. And we would highly recommend that experience.
So the castle/palace theme, we're going to jump back into that for a moment because back to Otovalis, rest up because we had another long day, very good day. And this was, again, falls into the family adventure, family fun. So if this is, if you're a family, you're listening, this certainly is a great experience for you and your family to go on. Again, we recommend, Ev just seemed like she was a perfect age, around 7. Strollers and that there were some, but you're going up in a shuttle
but you didn't say where yet.
Sintra.
You didn't say where we're talking.
I'm already talking about it.
Yes. So again, now we're going to talk about a few trips you could take from a centralized area. So whether you would stay in Otovalis or in Lisbon in any of the districts, then you can expand out and come back to a central point, or you could just keep going and stay in these places too. But this is when we ventured further
out. We took the train this time.
Sintra.
Yeah, which is cool. So we got to see some of the countryside as well. Sintra, get off the train, jump onto a bus.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
We had no idea. And so this bus takes us right up the hill to the National Palace of Pena. No, not right up the hill, but I mean, we were one. Okay. So we had a bus driver named Coast. How do we know? Because of course I interviewed him. It was standing room only. And this was kind of like, it should be a ride at Disneyland. It was an adventure.
Blind corners or blind curves. One way.
One way up. And literally, if there are people walking up the street, they need to go to the side, flat themselves out, or they will be sideswiped by a giant bus. And I'm talking to Coast and asked him, how in the heck did you learn how to do this? Former military, ended up, there's training up and down this mountain.
Yeah.
It's a big training situation. And he's talking to me and I'm going, should I be talking to you right now? Because you need to focus. He's like, no, I can do this in my sleep. I'm like, oh, great. But it was, that in itself was an adventure.
Absolutely. And knowing that we needed to take the train, we knew we were getting on a bus to go up to the top, but just timing it all and knowing. So again, we'll provide some guidance around that because you really do need to kind of understand what your day experience and timing is going to be like. Because we had a timed entrance to the National Palace of Pena, and Coast was amazing and getting us up there perfectly efficiently. But we had a timed entry that we needed to get up there for. And so then there's some confusion when you get off the bus about where you're supposed to go.
Because then you have to get another shuttle to go up again. And so, needless to say, we got there. We were late for a reservation. There's people everywhere. Lines, crowds. So there was a line. And so I walked ahead and said, hey, we have a reservation. We're 5 minutes, 10 minutes late, whatever it was. And they're like, come on. Yeah. Because there were, I don't know, a couple hundred people waiting to get in. It's like, are we going to wait for this or can we get in? So they're kind enough to let us in. It was really cool for a little bit, meaning And I'm thinking of it through the eyes of Everly.
So
Right.
different than like St. George's Castle, where it's all open and the walls are exposed and you just walk on the walls. This was a preserved, a more formal museum tour of the palace as it was in early times.
By the
So
way,
you're
can I just say
noticing, like,
though, the sights of it before we talk about the rooms, it was like blue and yellow,
it
and
was like Aladdin's castle.
it was like Aladdin's
You said it looks
castle.
like Aladdin's castle.
Yes, it did. It was, and it's on top of this hill. It's picturesque. It's just like you stand there and like, what in the heck?
Yeah.
It was
Cool.
beautiful. I'm sorry. I just wanted to
No, it is.
paint
It's
that
true.
picture, and then now we go inside. Yeah.
It's true. It's really stunning to see from afar. And then inside, the rooms are preserved in a certain way to show how life would have been. Some incredible learnings, though, because as the queens rotated through the castle, they were the first ones there to introduce more modern plumbing into a castle and really start to kind of modernize that experience. And it was quite the transition because that had never happened before. So really incredible history. But then, like Kent said, after a certain time, Everly's curiosity around that was over. And we had another tour to get to. So
we had something to do. Of course we did. We had a full slate of things. By the way, it was the summer residence for the royal family back in the 19th century. As Michelle mentioned, going through everything was roped off as it would have been back then, including the formal dining room, which was stunning with the window and views of the valley. I mean, it was ridiculous. So the cool thing is we went to one of the security people, whatever it is that were there. We're like, hey, we got to get out of here. We have to go horseback riding. We need to leave. He's like, follow me. Back door.
Yeah, we got like a behind the scenes
got out of there.
Exit.
And he's like, go that way.
So then we got this. It was like a fast forward tour because we saw the rest of it.
We just flew through. Oh, the kitchen. Oh, this. Oh, that. We are out of here. So we got out and we started walking the grounds. And the grounds are
so stunning,
gorgeous. Mossy walls and babbling brooks, overhanging trees, ferns. I can't explain it to you. It was beautiful. But then we try to navigate. There's signs. We're trying to find the horse stables.
Yes. And this is a more unique experience. We actually discovered this and booked this just through research, and it's not well publicized or something that a lot of people know about. So even on the grounds, we would ask, where's the horse stable? And everyone's like, maybe back towards the main gate. And we're like, okay, like no one really knew where it was. So it was a bit of an adventure to find the horseback riding. But once we did.
We did. And so we walk in and we were the only ones there. I believe it was a group tour and we ended up being the only ones on it. So it was a private tour for us. And Teresa was our guide. She was lovely. And of course, we put a microphone on her. You're getting the little bit theme here. We just start putting microphones on people and saying, hey, can we record you? She is an aspiring horse jumper that wants to be in the Olympics someday. She was wonderful and kind of give us the history as we're walking. So we're on horseback.
This is the first time that Everly had been horseback riding. Yeah. And so Teresa did an incredible job of making Everly feel comfortable. And I'm not that experienced on a horse either. So she did a lovely job of selecting horses that would be the right temperament for us. Though mine was quite feisty. I feel like that was maybe on purpose.
I wish we had the names of I forgot the names of the horses. Yeah.
I think we have.
Evie was on a little pony, which was really cool, really cute. She put on a hat, like a jumping hat, helmet. I'm sorry. It was awesome. I mean, it was so cool.
Really cool way to see, because then we got to go on some other paths that you can't just walk on or access, but by horseback you can.
And there were like cottages, other historical cottages throughout the property, and there were people doing tours. And so we're walking, and all of a sudden it's like, here we come, and they move to the side, and we watched like we were some royalty, something or other. It was pretty funny. So we just kind of cruise on through. We're kind of waving, do the parade wave at people. It was awesome. So
these are the kinds of things, like finding the ability to do a little more interesting tour via horseback. Like wherever we would go, like how could we experience this in a slightly unique way?
Mm-hmm.
That was certainly one of them.
So after the horseback, we continued to walk the grounds. We knew the Moorish Castle was part of the property in Sintra. And instead of finding a shuttle, we just walked.
We just
kept walking. And this time we had to go back up the hill a little bit. But needless to say, found the Moorish Castle. Again, beautiful.
It's more of like a fairy garden entrance. Like you had to navigate this valley, and fairy garden's the only way I can think of it. Like green passageways to find the entrance to it. I don't know. I felt like we were in a little bit of a hidden castle.
It's a 10th century hilltop fortress, and that couldn't be a better description because you are up there. We walk the walls, and the views. This was even higher, than St. George's Castle, and the valley views, and you could tell for a protection standpoint, it had a full 360 view of the valley. But the walkways on the fortress walls were even more narrow. And Everly was even running faster. And when I'm looking back at the video, I hear myself, I am out of breath. I am sucking wind trying to keep up with her.
Yeah.
It was insane. And we just one shot where we walk all the way to the top, and there's a flag up there, and you can see the Pena Palace in the distance.
You can see the entire valley.
And
it's amazing.
It was unbelievable. So yeah, it was again another one of those awesome experiences. No strollers, no young kids. Certainly, older children are recommended. But then we went down. We caught a shuttle back.
Mm-hmm.
Went down again the winding roads. Another driver who expertly navigated his way down, and then we ended up going to dinner.
Yeah, then you're down in this
Sintra.
little town square once again. Outdoor restaurants and. Again, just a wonderful European feel where everyone's eating outdoors, and the hardest part is to pick which one you want to commit to eating at because you don't want to miss out on anything. But we found a lovely outdoor cafe and had a lovely dinner, and then Ev was up for some dessert. So we wound our way around, and we actually found a little wine bar, I think it was, that was serving gelato. They had a chocolate gelato. So her and Kent enjoyed some gelato, and our day in Sintra was complete.
Okay, so this is where things get, I wouldn't say tricky when we're navigating, but so we decided again to stay in Otavalos and make that our home base. But then we want to go up north, 5-hour drive to the Douro Valley into Porto. And so we talked about it, and we're like, we actually made the reservation for the entire month.
Yes.
But let's obviously hold on to that, and we'll go find some Airbnbs for a couple nights each in Douro Valley and Porto. And it turned out to be perfect because then we could just pack a small suitcase and not have to lug all of our luggage around. So it turned out to be a good decision.
At that point, we still had more luggage. By the end of this trip, there was no real
yeah, that's the first stop. We had lots of things.
Stuff.
We had things.
It's easy to do like an overnight. I know the way you say that, it's like from our modified packing, we modified again. But yeah, it was nice to just be able then to kind of venture out and purposefully knowing we'll keep our home base, but we'll still go for a few nights other places. So so the first one that we headed up to check out was Douro Valley.
5-hour drive from Otavalos, give or take, on the N222, which is a very popular highway. How do we know that? Michelle just Googled it earlier.
Or the Douro wine route, I think.
That's sexier. I like that better. If you know us, you know that Michelle and I like to drink wine. And if you know us as well, Everly doesn't like to come along with.
When I first told her about Portugal and why do we want to go to Portugal? I'm like, because there's olive oil and wine. And she's like, and I would want to do that because, and I'm like,
why?
Because there's also chocolate. There's chocolate. And she's like, oh, okay. All right. I'm on board for chocolate. So chocolate is coming in a minute.
So kid friendly now. Everly. Yeah. Well, yes. Yeah. Well, Everly friendly. No.
It's not her favorite.
Not a lot really to do, I guess, that we did because.
Well, let us tell you how we did things and the things that she did enjoy, because there was a dog at the property where we stayed.
So
the dog.
This might have been my favorite place that we stayed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand
this was, and I'm again trying to make sure I pronounce it and do it justice. Quinta Barqueiros Douro. It's actually the name of a winery. We stayed on a winery. The Airbnb was in this old. It looked somewhat like a small castle. It was awesome, and we were in the loft area above. It almost looked like we were in a redone attic. But it was. I can't explain to you the view of the Douro River out our window. It just was quaint. It was comfortable. It was the wine, the bread. We were on the vineyard was outside our door. It had, I don't know, it really was something else. And the way that the clouds would come down and hover in the morning over the river, and you could just the sounds, the smells, the sights. It was special.
Yeah,
It was
it
a
was a
special
full
place.
sensory experience for sure. And even as we navigated this beautiful route, but it's very curvy and you kind of want to be the driver and be in control, and you're driving on the opposite side of the road. Um, and we saw this pink house up on a hill and we are all kind of like, oh, that's so beautiful. Wouldn't that be so cool? And then as we arrive, that is the house. And like Ken said, it's at the very top. We're greeted by the owner, the father in the family who owns the winery. He shares a glass of wine with us. All of a sudden, a dog comes and greets Everly, and he's giving us a bit of history. And he walks us up, and there's a lift for your luggage. So there's no elevator for you, but there's this lift for your luggage. So European, so wonderful. And so we navigate our way up to the top. And the view is so stunning, and they've left us bread and some items for breakfast and juice, and it's just like so thoughtful and so quaint and just amazing. And so we had booked a wine tasting experience that was to be at their winery for the evening, which for us, we're used to daytime wineries and we start pretty early, but this was an evening experience in their wine cave.
Yeah, husband, wife, 3 sons that run this. One of the sons has taken over the winemaking. Another son is a tour guide. More on that in a moment. And another son was, I want to say he's a numbers guy, but he was still in the city in business, and he was still coming to join this family winery. So we go down and we do this like cave wine tasting experience. It's our jam.
I mean, first of all, the temperature dropped by about 50 degrees. It got so cold. So we got ready, we changed, we took warm showers because we were just like freezing, and got ready for an evening, which was kind of exciting because we hadn't really done that yet either. And like Ken said, it's like our jams. We walk in and there's a few other people gathering, and then there's a few more, and then there's some that speak English, and this is the first time that we had been amongst other English speaking people for like a month. And it is our jam. We went into the wine cave.
Yeah, and so Ev was entertained for maybe 2 minutes, but she did terrific.
She did.
She was wonderful. We brought things for her to do. She sat there, and she certainly was. She was doing it for us, so we truly appreciated that. So it was a great experience. The next day, we booked a tour through our Airbnb. So it was another brother who has this cool old Range Rover, and we got in and we went to I think 2 wineries. We did 2, right? One was a virtual reality experience where we went in, put the virtual reality goggles on, and did this whole cool thing, and then did a tasting.
Yeah.
And then that was more red. So we went up the hill and did one that had like a 200-year-old vine.
That was the coolest part. They have the oldest vine in all of Douro Valley.
Yeah.
And so you walk the grounds and you get to see the vine that was the original cluster that started their entire winery and the oldest wine there. I mean, the history, the hospitality, the thoughtfulness, and then the range of experience going from like a bigger producer and a virtual reality, very cool, but different kind of experience, then to the grounds and a walking tour and a tasting that were all private individual tastings. It was really pretty special.
It was terrific. And then that night we went to a dinner in Douro, which was amazing. Kind of what we were walked in by our driver, one of the brothers again, walked us to the back, and it was like a husband and wife owned it. It was
like an apartment. Like
phenomenal.
You walked in and it's so small and narrow, and you went upstairs. I felt like we were in somebody's like New York style old apartment.
You're right. It was a house. It was a house. Yeah.
And we had this incredible table, and the food was unbelievable. And then we're about to leave. Well, we were there for a while, and we had a lovely dinner, and then we're about to leave, and it's almost like a pub, like a bar downstairs as you leave.
As you walk through, it's like this. You're right, a pub.
And did you start talking to him? I don't know how it happened, but Kent ended up.
We were checking out, and he's like, "Do you want anything?"
He asked what we had
a drink, maybe, and I said, I want some of that.
What you have,
or what you have, and then other people at the bar are drinking out of this jug, and I go, I want what's
in little cups, little
and I want what's in that. And he's like, you do? I'm like, that's what I want. That's what everybody here is drinking. That's what I want to have. And so it was like, it was not uncured wine, but it was certainly a unfinished, very popular kind of towards the bottom of the barrel type of thing.
And so Everly and I are like out the door, and we're like, where's Kent? What's happening? And then I look back. Of course, he's like talking to the owner of the bar. So we come back over. We're waiting for a driver to come. So come back over. We ended up chatting with him, and he and his sister had taken this restaurant over from their parents. It had been in the family, and he was talking about the seasonality and what they depend on. And I mean, just like family, like they just became like family.
Yeah, it was awesome. So that was our Douro Valley experience.
One of our favorites, and not
One of our favorites. Everly probably doesn't. She'll say, olive oil and wine, and not a big fan. So, but Michelle mentioned chocolate. So the next day we're heading to Porto, and on the way to Porto, we stopped at the Chocolate Story, or is it called the Chocolate Experience? It's been called two different things, but it's in the museum at the World of Wine, better known as WOW, WOW.
Which we didn't know. We were just booking the chocolate experience. We just wanted to know about chocolate. And then we got there. It's this entire.
So this is they call it a sensory tour covering 5,000 years of chocolate.
Yes.
You're tasting as you go.
Yes.
The cacao plants,
you have like a hot chocolate with the cacao.
Hot chocolate they had with the, I don't know, the Mayans or whatever that was.
Yeah, we
right?
take through the whole process.
The whole process from beginning to end and how it worked. It was fascinating, and that was something that Everly, and you got to taste the beans.
Yep.
The cacao beans. Again, tasting, touching. It was really cool. And at the end, they had a actually working chocolate factory, and then they had some tastes that
you got to do like grab like a chocolate bar, and then you could taste the different chocolate bars, and then they did. Was it a marshmallow dipped in chocolate? And they let you do this tasting experience. And so I really loved it. It was quite the highlight. And we learned a lot while also having fun. And again, this lends itself to the Worldschooling and to the sensory experiences and to kind of that practical learning. So definitely a highlight.
Porto was the goal, was where we wanted to stay that night.
Can I also mention the Pink Palace?
Oh.
So part of this World of Wine and the chocolate experience, then again, it's this whole complex, and there's other museums within. And so there's one called the Pink Palace, and we're like, oh, let's check that out.
This is winning at parenting right here.
Winning at parenting because
just check it out.
The Pink Palace, and they give you a cup and like 5 little tickets. And Kent was driving, so he's like, I don't know.
Well, yeah, tell him what it was. It was a rosé.
It was a rosé tasting, 5 different rosés. But the way they did it is it like took you through a playground, basically.
Yes.
You came in and there was like a first taste, and there would be like bigger than life size champagne bottle. And so you take a picture by it, but it made it look like you were really small and the item was really big, like those World of Illusion
You're coming out of the cork.
You're coming out, you stand on the top, and you're like
popping out of the cork. Yeah.
But then the reason we had seen, and the reason why we go is there was the ball pit. Now, Everly's never been in a ball pit because I have other opinions about a ball pit, but this was a pink ball pit filled with pink balls, and you could jump in it, and then you could have a taste of rosé. That's your ball pit.
Right.
I don't know. I had a fabulous time. And then you move on, and there's like a pink Cadillac. And you take pictures in this pink Cadillac that you can pretend like you're driving.
It was unreal.
Really sure. I don't know. It's really fun. And actually, I really still laughs about it and revisits it. And Kent took this cool video of us like jumping in the pink ball pit.
Slow motion video. Yeah, it was cool.
So, highly recommend. Wow, the whole experience.
Yes. All right. Rolling on to Porto. Okay, so we're in our rental car. And we are trying to find our Airbnb, which now it's pouring rain and
pitch black.
Pitch black.
Yep.
And
because we had a great day.
Yeah, the signs are in Portuguese. Don't know why.
My navigation's not working.
And it's down a small cobblestone alley.
Yes.
And we just can't find it. And we go in circles and circles and circles.
So I text, call the proprietor of the Airbnb.
Yeah.
And they try to explain it to us again. And I don't really know actually how we ended up finding it. Because by light of day, we understand now that this is almost like a PCH, like a Pacific Coast Highway in the front of this area.
Right.
Going one way, though, and then you have to go forever so you can go back the other way. But then this is like a street off of that. And so you cannot ever see the turn to get to it.
Right.
Ever. By the light of day, we're like, oh, there it is. But at night, you did a great job. got us there. We
Well,
got there. So, and then we get in because it's pouring rain. And
Yeah.
so we get Everly inside and then we're like, all right, now we have to figure out the luggage because you can't park anywhere near the front door. It's down
No.
back another alleyway and you have to turn twice. Oh,
Got it. Made it.
made it.
So, cool spot. I mean, it worked. It was certainly, we were all, it was kind of one big bedroom. It was small, quaint,
Cute
but
little
it's
like
exactly
studio apartment.
what we were looking for.
Yeah.
For
We went to the store.
for how long we were
got
there.
some
Yeah, we
food.
got a pizza.
Yeah.
Put a pizza in there. So, it was
Played
cool.
some games. Love to play our
So,
cards.
want to go to Porto for many reasons. You hear about Porto and people like you have to go to Porto. But quick story before we left on our trip. I read an article in the Orange County Register, which is a newspaper out of Southern California, and there was this story about a surf church in Portugal, and I'm like, this is cool. And so I started reading about it, and was reading about Samuel, and he is the head pastor at this church, and so I'm like, well, this is cool. Maybe let me. And I looked him up and on Instagram. Sent him a DM. He gets back to me. And I'm like, we'd love to do a story on you. And it was the only story I set up before we went. So sure enough, we're in communication with him. And he's like, I'll meet you at this coffee shop, in the morning, and we'll do an interview. We'll talk and whatever it is. So sure enough, he shows up at this coffee shop and we do this wonderful interview with him the next morning. And it turned out to be, what a day. It turned out to be.
Yeah. I mean, talking with Samuel in the morning was just very inspiring, and hearing the story of Surf Church, why it started, what his mission is, how he became so involved and became a pastor. And so it's extremely inspirational. We have a full story on our YouTube channel if you're interested in more about Samuel and Surf Church. But yeah, then the day did not end with the interview.
Oh, tell them more.
So after we wrapped up our interview, he let us know they were actually having a surf session that afternoon, and he would love to take us surfing and teach us how to surf. So that would be something we would like to accept. And so we went surfing with Samuel. He was so incredible. And so basically what happens is a bunch of people gather on Sundays and they have about a 2-hour surf, and Samuel was kind enough to teach us. I got up. It was awesome. I am not a surfer, even though we live in Southern California. Kent is
No, I was a bodyboarder growing up, so I maybe surfed a handful of times, and it was so like Michelle mentioned, part of their Sunday congregation, so to speak, is that you go surfing around 2:00, and then you all end up back at the surf church, which is their facility. You have this wonderful buffet in the back. You meet everybody, hang out. Everybody's in their board shorts, t-shirts,
yes.
casual, very cool. But back to the surfing thing, he supplied us with wetsuits,
Yeah.
surfboards.
We went to this location first to
Yeah.
get boards and get wetsuits, but then they had already
Left.
left. And so he was like, just meet us at the beach. And so we did. And yes, he had everything for us and got us geared up, got us in the water.
Great video of Michelle getting up for the first time. It was awesome.
And just, yes, it was incredible. And just a call out to Porto and the beaches. So along your itinerary, if you're going to Portugal with kids, highly recommend Porto. The beach areas of Porto, there's, you can stay almost anywhere and you walk along. There's shops and again, cafes, and it's just such a cool area. And the beach is wide and expansive and the water was warm. We wore wetsuits because we were in for a while, but the surf was so good. Kind to new beginning surfers. And yes, highly recommend. Very, very cool. And so then it's time to leave the beach.
But I want to name the beach. I actually did a post on Instagram, or I'm sorry, on TikTok this morning of you surfing, of you standing up. And I did the research of this beach. It's a popular surf spot, and especially for beginners, as we're watching Michelle right now. Matosinhos Beach, and I'm not saying that correctly. Matosinhos Beach, and it's a beautiful, wide open beach.
Yeah.
Very reminiscent of Huntington Beach. It was kind of reminded me of that. It was it had such a tremendous lot of sand.
And then there were swings for Everly. So she watched us surf. She chose not to this time, but she watched us. And then there were swings up at the top of the beach. And anyway, then it's time to wrap up because it's time to go to church. And so Samuel's like, hey, can you help me take a couple of these boards back? We're like, definitely. Of course we will. And then we carry these boards to our car.
They're long boards.
Feeling great.
FYI,
and then we get to our car and we're like, we have this tiny, I don't know what it was, a tiny European car. And we're like, how are we going to get these surfboards back to Surf Church, to Samuel? And so we rearrange the car, we get them on, and we're holding them because they're out I don't know. I don't know how we did it.
It was awesome.
It was awesome. And we were happy. We were laughing. Like we were having the best time.
And it was so inspirational too, because then we went and we stayed for about 3/4 of the service. They did in English and Portuguese.
Yeah.
It was just people from all over the world, people who found their place there.
Yes.
His story is wonderful. Samuel Cianelli. Again, we did a whole interview with him on our YouTube channel, so check it out. But yeah, we thank him a ton, and we're still in touch with him. A lovely family, his kids. So, anyways, it was a very, spiritual experience. It
Yeah.
truly was, being one with the wave and being one with what his messaging and how it all really just kind of came together. And spending the entire day, breakfast, the afternoon, and at night. And we got back to our place. I remember in Porto, and we're just like, wow. What a day that was.
Still right now,
I'm
reflecting
getting chills
on it.
thinking about it. It was just very spiritual, obviously,
Yeah.
but it was great.
Yeah.
So thank you again to him.
Yeah.
We could, this could be a 2-hour podcast if we really wanted to be. So speaking of tremendous people, again, experiences, this falls under the family experience. You can go, when you go on these trips, you want some sort of a souvenir, a keepsake, something that reminds you of your experience, has some meaning to it, right? Why don't you make your meaning?
Especially when you have an artistic daughter who is very creative and loves to make things with her hands. And throughout Portugal, we kept noticing the gorgeous tiles.
And again, here's the full circle about the earthquake Michelle talked about. When the city was rebuilt after the earthquake, it was Portuguese tiles that they used. So she found a wonderful place called the Art of Azulejos. Marie Caroline Vidal, she was the one in charge, and it was a tile making class one evening outside of Lisbon.
Yes.
And we went there, and there must have been, 15 people around the table.
Maybe not even that many, but small, intimate.
Smaller. Ev was the only kid there. Marie Caroline was lovely,
so
but it's like initially you didn't want to cross her or say anything. Like she had her point she was making. She was passionate about the tiles.
Well, she was giving us a history
of,
because there are imitation tiles, and there are a lot of things that have happened with how tile making works and the preservation of the art and the authenticity of the tile. And she's a historian. I mean, she doesn't claim to be a historian, but she, in our eyes, was a historian, and she was telling us. And I mean, we found her fascinating, but I agree. You were like, not going to interrupt her flow.
But we wanted to, somehow we charmed her.
Well, we were there for like 7 hours. I don't know.
Yes, we were there for a long time, and she took a liking to Everly and Everly's talents, and she would show the class, "Hey, look at what she's doing." She just, before our very eyes, became this warm, wonderful, caring human that was so passionate about the history of Portugal and a passion of teaching.
Mm-hmm. And she has an incredible story of how she even started teaching. She actually started teaching
cooking
people how to cook. Yeah, exactly. How to cook in very small women's groups, and then started experiencing being able to share her art. And then people wanted to learn how to do the tiles. And so anyway, she's made a tremendous.
Oh, did we interview her? Yes, we did.
Yes, and guess where you can find that if you'd like to see the full story.
One other thing with Marie Caroline is that we did get a ticket in Porto.
Okay, remember the story about driving around in the rain and not being able to find our apartment in Porto?
Mm-hmm.
And so we found a parking spot the best we could, and we stayed there for like 2 days because we were just doing all of our roaming around and stuff. And yes, when we went to leave, there's a parking ticket on our window. We still don't know why, actually, because everything was in Portuguese. I don't know. We did not have a proper permit to park there, apparently. And we tried to pay it many times over.
And you have to have like a account, or you have to be a resident or whatever. Resident. So
as you can't even get a ticket.
We told
as a foreigner. I don't know.
Marie Caroline about this. She's like, "You just give it to me. I'll pay it.
Give it to me. I'll pay it." She's like, "It's silly, the system. Like, you do have to be a resident, and you have to do it under this like login." And she's like, "I'll just pay it for you."
So we had to come the next day to pick up our tiles that she fired for us and everything, and they were beautiful. And she'd set them on these different wood frames. And then we came and saw her the next morning, and she's like, I'll pay for it. So she paid for her ticket. She wouldn't take money. It was awesome. She was amazing.
Thank you, Marika.
So then we check out of our place in Otavalis and we head down south.
Farewell to Olavalis after a month.
Otavalis. So we got ourselves another rental car and headed down to Algarve.
Algarve, which is famously known for the beaches and beautiful surf and beaches and long stretches of beach. And the Algarve is, as you probably all know, just really iconic. So we're very excited to kind of go to back near the water. We hadn't really been on the beach again.
So you guys might laugh on this, but one of our through our first 3 months of our trip, October, November, December, one of our goals for Everly, again going back to the kid friendly, she loves to swim, but she loves to swim in warm water. The goal was to find a heated pool, but as we come to find out, everywhere in Europe kind of shuts down the heater. They don't heat them in the wintertime.
No.
So we found a quote unquote resort that we stayed at in Algarve, which is really cool, but it's better during the summertime.
Yeah, it's October. This is October.
Yeah, so lots of pools. It's right on the cliffs of the water. And so the pool, we go to the pool. It's got like a sandy. You know how sometimes they have one end of the pool is all sand and it kind of goes in gradually. It was really cool. And we got a pool. Let's go in. And we get our suits on, get down there,
jump in.
Cold plunge.
Absolute cold plunge.
Yeah.
I was done. I was out. Thank you for that. I'm done.
So Ev and I stayed in as long as we could, just to say we did. Went to the resort. They said, "Oh, we have an adult pool. You can use it until 8 a.m."
Yeah, it's heated. You can use it till 8 a.m.
So what do we do the next morning? We
got up at 6 a.m. to the pool. And even heated, that pool
wasn't. Yeah, it was the best we found though on the entire trip,
great.
Pretty much.
We did have a really fun time in that pool. It was really fun. And that resort was really lovely. It had a nice little restaurant and we got to know some of the staff that we really enjoyed. So it was amazing. But part of the Algarve was to experience all the beaches and the beauty. And there's many rock formations. And so some of the beaches are more famous for that. So we kind of just started on our path of going more into the kind of popular district and having lunch one day and then just working our way down the beaches for 2 or 3 days. We just kind of hit every beach that we possibly could.
Yeah. There are 4 on here that we hit.
So the first was more again, we had lunch in kind of in the town area and then we walked more on a boardwalk out a little bit, the seagrass is at the top of the beach and you kind of walk out onto the sand to be a pathway, a little more organized. And that beach.
Do we give this a shot here?
Yeah.
Pride Zone Roque.
Okay. Again, pardon our pronunciations. We are doing our best in this moment. And again, when you see just the itinerary of the beaches, it's all laid out and you'll be able to navigate it. But this was a cool beach because you just, like I said, you walked out and it wasn't very populated. There are some jellyfish had actually washed up and it was more of just a walking beach. So this is a nice beach for just taking a picnic maybe and having a nice walk on the beach. And then the famous arches that you see, the rock formations. This one we discovered from higher up and got our first glimpse and took pictures from the top. And then you can navigate your way down and get onto the sand where the waves are crashing through the arches.
It was a little precarious too because it was the high tide was coming in, and when we rolled around to the one side of the arches, and then we're like, oh, we got to get back. Yeah, we got to hurry up and get back at some point. And it was Praia do Camilo.
Yeah. And there's, again, kind of at the top of that one, there's little areas and little parking areas, but again, not as populated, more just seeing it for beauty and taking pictures on that beach and just admiring the rock formations.
And then Praia do Porto de Maj.
That was probably our favorite in terms of a long stretch, kind of long, silky sand beach. And you could definitely lay out at that beach. You could definitely just take your time. We did yoga on that beach. We found a little alcove. We spent more time and just kind of had a whole beach day.
And then finally, Praia de Luz.
And Praia dos, that was more, we went for
Evening
a sunset.
surf,
We did
sunset.
an evening. Again, also they have like really cool fish houses and restaurants along the top of the sidewalk part. But then the evening there, it's one of the best beaches for the sunset. So a beautiful sunset and watching the surf come in.
And also we had, along with the beaches though, we had we drove to the end of the world.
Oh, that was yes, we did.
A different day.
We had a whole sightseeing day that we went to Cape St. Vincent.
Cape St. Vincent.
Which
the southwesternmost point of mainland Europe.
There we go. And historically thought, before we understood how the globe and the world worked, that it was the furthest point and the end of the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, it's round. It's not flat.
Cool lighthouse there that was commissioned in 1846. The cliffs 100 meters high. There were fishermen on top of these cliffs. That it was ridiculous. Like you're watching them and just hoping you don't see something you don't want to see. I mean, they're literally on the edge of these cliffs, 100 meters high, throwing out their line. It was not for the faint of heart. Let's be honest. So that was a cool to be part of that, see that historical setting.
And then we watched the sunset from the furthest point there as well. And it's very popular. And you hear everybody's kind of like oohs and ahs as the sun actually goes down. And it's so incredible. And it's the windiest place I've ever been in my entire life. It got so windy at the end of it. So like it was quite cold, but it is worth a visit to see the sunset and to see the furthest point. But it gets windy. So just be warned.
As we bring this Portugal tour to a close, we do want to highlight some of the Worldschooling stuff that we did with Ev and became a theme really throughout the course of our trip, meaning aquariums and zoos. Yep. And there are similarities, of course, right? It's an aquarium and a zoo, but the sea life and a lot of the animals might be indigenous to that particular area. They might have different, exhibits to see. So we went to the Lisbon Zoo. Do you want to say it?
Oh, the Jardim Zoológica.
Oh, there you go. Well done. Well done, Michelle. And then went to the Oceanário de Lisboa, which is the aquarium.
Which was awesome. Which is so cool.
Fantastic. Yeah. It was, great. Amazing.
And it has a cable car. Yeah. So out the back of the aquarium, you can take this cable car. Is that the right? I'm saying that right? It's like is that the right word?
Yeah.
Cable car across the water, and it's very high up.
It was built in 1998 as part of the World Expo, so it was really cool. And so Michelle didn't like it. Ev had a wonderful time with Michelle because she hates heights, and so we went on this thing. We did a whole.
Better. This trip has.
You faced a lot of your fears on this trip. I was very impressed. And then went to the Sea Life Aquarium in Porto. As we were leaving Porto, and they had a cool penguin exhibit there. And sea life became a common theme too. We saw a lot of the sea life aquariums in Europe as well. So
I want to say a quick thing, because we went through that part fast because we know we need to wrap this episode up. But and we'll probably create some additional World School resource in that way. That what I want to say is when we first landed in Portugal and we got into our apartment, I pulled out some of Everly's lessons plans the very first night, and poor thing was jet lagged, but I was like, we're going to go to bed really early tonight. So let's just do a little study before you go to bed. And sweet girl is like looking at this worksheet and she can't even keep her eyes open. And she's like falling asleep. And Kent and I are trying to do something. And I look over and she's asleep, holding her work. And it occurred to me in that moment of like, that was so interesting that I had this expectation that the second we got here, like that, and then just move along. I don't really think much about that. And then we start having all these experiences and we start learning about the people and the culture and going to the zoo and going to the museums and going to the aquariums and learning all the history. And day by day, I would still pull out the workbooks and I would pull out the worksheets and pull out the iPad to do the thing. And we stayed with quite the routine, but it is Portugal where I realized I do not want to look back and see how stressed I was about her schooling. Like the point is World School. The point is the experience. And will we be sure that she learns what she needs to learn to academically come back to school? But will I look back on this trip and be reflecting on how stressed out I was about it?
Right.
And we will continue to weave in what we did to teach her and what World School became for us because it really transformed. But Portugal is the place where I was like,
it set the tone.
Out with the books.
It set the tone.
And back to like.
And rightfully so. And thank you, Portugal, for St. George's Castle, the Moorish Castle, the National Palace of Pena. Thank you for all those things that opened our eyes to what she could see, the horseback riding through the grounds of, the Pena Palace. Those are the experiences that she will have for her lifetime to look back on. And that we were living history. And I alluded to it earlier. We have another podcast talking about Greece. It's like we went to the different monuments. Like she's going to look in a book one day and go, I was there. And those are the things that we look forward to the most. So, I guess when you talk about takeaways for Portugal, it was a learning experience because we didn't know what the hell we were doing.
Well, and we now know a lot of world school families, or travel families, I should say, a lot of travel families reflect on their first location very interestingly. So we'll unpack that further as we move along in sharing all of our experience. But generally, the first location is one of the hardest because you're learning, you're adjusting to what you just did, and that you are not returning home to whatever that means for a year. And you learn a lot. So we, like you said, we thank Portugal for being our first location.
And don't forget, we mentioned at the very beginning, we've kind of alluded to it throughout the course of the podcast, but there will be a PDF. We're an hour and 15 minutes in almost. I know it's a long one, but it's certainly a lot to talk about.
This far.
Yeah, we appreciate it. And hopefully you can hear the passion through our voices if you're listening to us, of course, but seeing obviously the joy if you're watching on YouTube that, the trip meant the world to us. And this was the jumping off point. So maybe we got a little carried away at times, but I think it was worth it.
We'll make the next one's shorter.
It was worth it, definitely based on everything. So don't forget, you can check out the podcast on our Frenchitivity Podcast on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, and also on the Frenchitivity YouTube channel. So we appreciate you hanging with us.
Yeah, and if you enjoy the episode, it means the world to us if on Spotify you give us a follow, if on Apple iTunes you subscribe, rate, and review the show. It means so much to us. And to grab that free PDF, please visit Frenchitivity, FRENCHITIVITY.com. Frenchitivity, our last name plus ativity.com. /Portugal, and we will make sure you get that PDF with all the resources and how we planned this trip.
Thank you so much for being part of our family, the Frenchitivity family to be exact, and we look forward to having you join us for the rest of our journey around the world.